to another Cook With Me video. Today I want to teach you guys how to make homemade chicken soup. This is my recipe. It can be made a million different ways, but I'm showing you my way, which is really delicious. So this is chicken tortellini, so you will need definitely to get some tortellini. This pot I have boiling water going on in it right now. Now I want to show you what I do first is just take, I don't know, this is about 4 to maybe 6, 8 cups of water. Bring it to a boil. And to that you are going to add some chicken. Now I like to use chicken breasts because I like to leave my soup, whoa, we're really fogged up here. I like to leave my soup a little bit on the, let me kind of move this out of the way there, guys. On the lean side. I don't really care for it to be, actually I'm going to back this away and just come in a little closer because, there we go. Alright, yeah, I like to make my soup on the lean side. So in this pot I have 2 frozen chicken breasts. Absolutely frozen. Solid. Now I did put them under the water because I like to wash my meat. So to this, just drop the chicken breasts in there. I have these chicken cubes. These here, boy, I just can't seem to get in the camera here. Let me scroll out a little. All right, I have these monosodium glutamate free and low sodium in these chicken cubes, and I'm going to just drop one in there and let it cook with the chicken. Now to that, I'm going to drop in about 5 cloves of garlic, some parsley. I'm just going to leave it whole, and I'm going to let this cook for about 2 hours. That's all I'm putting in this. What I want to do is create a broth, and I want a nice clear broth. So when this is all cooked and the meat's falling off the bone, that means the flavor has really gone into your soup a lot. Now if there is going to be any grease on the top of this, I will show you how I remove the grease off the top of mine because I hate grease. I hate grease, and I cannot stand greasy soup or anything like that. Now when you use dark meat, you're definitely going to get grease. Oh, okay, so, right. Let's add a little tiny bit of salt because, like I said, that's a low sodium chicken cube. And let's add some black pepper. This is all just to flavor the broth for now. We are going to flavor this broth more once it cooks down. So to this, I'm just going to put a lid on this. I'm going to let it simmer away. Once it comes to a boil, like I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce it down to between 2 and minimum. So your lowest setting, one little tick up. So do that. Get your stuff. You can see it's starting to come to a little bit of a boil, and just keep a lid on this so your broth doesn't boil away. So if you keep a lid on it, it's going to help reduce the water boiling away because it disappears. So do this, and I will be back to show you shortly what I cut up to put into my soup and get it all ready, and what you're going to need to strain your soup, because we're going to strain this broth. And you definitely need a good cheesecloth. So get your stuff ready. Ooh, that's a little hot on the arm. This little hole here, that letting out the steam here, that's hot. Okay, I'll be right back. Alrighty. Now, if I might have forgot to tell you guys, but if you are making this soup, I would start this early in the morning, like say around 9, 10 o'clock. Get your meat cooked, because the longer your soup cooks, the more infused with flavor it becomes. It's just a thing with homemade soup. If you don't let it cook long enough, it will taste bland. You'll taste just carrots, or you'll just taste the onion. You need all these flavors to simmer for about, I would say, a minimum of 4 hours. And by that time, all your vegetables and everything becomes really tender and just so delicious. My soup is, my meat is simmering away over here in the pot. I'll show you what it looks like. It is boiling away, and I could see the nice flavors all in there. Now, I'm only putting the garlic in there because I cannot stomach the smell of chicken boiling in water. Any kind of meat for that matter. I can't stand it. So it's just really, really gross. So what I have here is a bowl, and I'm going to just get all my stuff ready. So when my broth is done, I'm going to just throw all this stuff together and let it simmer for about 4 hours on very low, like a very low boil. You don't want it pounding boil. You just want a really low boil. So you're going to chop some parsley. This is fresh parsley, but by all means you can use dried parsley. It's just as good. But because I just made Miku his chop, I have all this extra parsley. Because I put parsley in his chop. So you just want to chop this as fine can be. Now, some of you may know with celery that is the key ingredient. I'm sorry, but to me, without celery, your soup will be disgusting. Just saying. Now, my husband absolutely hates celery. And I mean, he hates it. He just hates celery. But he loves it in the chicken soup. So, if you don't like celery, you really seriously need to put it in your soup, because you're not going to taste it. You will if you do not let your soup cook long enough. Okay, so we'll just put this off to the side for a minute. Just dump this on top of our vegetables. Let me show you Miku's chop. If any of you are wondering what his chop is, I chop all these fruits and vegetables, and I'm just going to show you. My son used to say the bird eats better than us. So in here I have Granny Smith apples, kale, celery, strawberries, carrots, broccoli, zucchini, what's it called? Spring mix, and it's that spring mix that me and Jeff eat in our salads. Yeah, I said, oh, and Swiss chard. It's ruby Swiss chard, radishes. This is all for baby Miku. Now, I keep a little container of watermelon, pineapple, and cantaloupe and honeydew aside, because I don't mix it in with this chop because it makes it super watery, and blueberries when they're in season. I always mix his chop, and then I just fill up his dish and put a little bit of the watermelon and stuff in it, and this is what he eats every single day of his life, aside from his pellets. He does eat pellets as well, so, but he looks forward to his chop. And I can keep this in the fridge for 3 days. After 3 days, I have to make new chop. So that's Miku's chop. That's his supper. All right, here is the key ingredient, guys. Absolutely key ingredient. Now, my mother always taught me this part, which is the very middle of the celery, has the most flavor that you can imagine in it. So you don't want to throw this out. And if you are using celery on a regular basis, and you know you're just not going to sit and eat this, what you're going to do with this is wash it, dry it out, put it in a Ziploc bag, and freeze these. So when you do make beef soup, any kind of vegetable soup, you really want to have this on hand. So that's our next ingredient. So the way I chop my celery is I only just slice it down the center. And some of the tops are missing because I put that in Miku's chop, and I have to chop his celery really small because the little strings can get caught in his crop and that can make him very ill. So the smaller your celery is, and it's so good for him. The smaller the celery is, the healthier it is, better for him. Because that way it's not going to hurt him. So let's just put these guys, these little, because these have to be chopped. You want to chop those pretty thin. So let's just chop. And I chop my celery really small like this, just so Jeff doesn't get grossed out. I mean, he's never been grossed out with my chicken soup, so I'm not worried, or my beef soup. I put all of these ingredients in the soup, and I do use a lot of celery because I'm telling you, chicken soup is just not chicken soup without lots of celery. So we're just going to chop these to small pieces, just so, I mean, Jeff doesn't mind this, I swear to you. And he will not, under no circumstances, eat celery all by itself. I love celery. I really do. I'm a celery lover. So let's just throw all of these ingredients into our bowl. Get some room on my cutting board. And then after we're done, I'm going to show you how I clean my wooden cutting board. Just so you guys can exercise the same health reasons or health things. So this stuff here is going to get chopped really small, but really flavorful. I'm telling you, this part here is the best flavor in your chicken soup. So even if you don't want a whole lot of celery, just take this middle piece out at least and throw that in your soup and chop it really fine. You will not taste it. So there is all our leaves. And I always like to cut, whoops, I threw that in the wrong bag. I always like to cut the very tips of those leaves off because they're dried out. They're gross. So that's that. So far we have celery and parsley. Main ingredients. Flavor. Then you want to take about, we like a lot of garlic. I don't know about you guys, but we like a lot of garlic. So I'm just going to chop all this garlic. The more, the merrier. Now right now we're just infusing our meat, our chicken, with the garlic flavor. So this will infuse our broth as well. So adding this garlic will really help flavor your soup. And when they say that chicken soup is like good for colds and stuff like that, the only reason it is good for colds is because of all the ingredients that you put into chicken soup. So celery, garlic, onions, and the chicken broth. I don't know so much as eating a piece of chicken is going to help a cold, but this is like, this is food for the soul, guys. To me it is. And my renter that lives downstairs, I made this soup, I don't know, a couple months ago, and he's like, if you ever make that chicken soup again, because I offered him some, and he usually never takes supper with us. He just makes his own suppers, and he eats his own meals. I don't cook for him. Anyway, I offered him the soup, and the next day when he come home from work, he said, if you ever make that chicken soup again, I'll be glad to have a bowl of it. So I made it again a month later, and now it's another month later, and I'm down to making my soup again, and I will offer him some because he's a really good guy. Super nice, doesn't bother nobody. He's just super sweet, super quiet. Like you don't even know he's down there. He's just so quiet. Alright, I think I have that minced up pretty good. Wouldn't you say? And that's a lot of garlic, guys. But hey, Good for you. Telling you. So good. Now, I only have a quarter of a big onion, and that's really all you need. You don't need a whole lot of onion. So I like to cut my onion down like so. Keeping parts of it attached just makes it way easier to chop. And then I just cut some little fine lines. And then I just begin chopping it. Like so. And I don't think it's going to chop very well like that, so. This was cut the wrong way. Really hard for me to chop it, so. Whoops. And I'm not a big fan of onion. I love garlic, I love celery, but I'm not a huge fan of onions. Never was. So I'm just going to chop this, whatever's left, and get rid of that piece. And then I'm just going to chop all these pieces smaller. So this, you can see that little piece of onion gave you a lot of onion. But it's good. And I like red onion. Some people don't like red onion. If you don't like red onion, you can use whatever onion you want. It's not going to matter. To me, onion is onion. So. Alright, I think those pieces are small enough. I just don't want to taste onion. I hate onions. But I cook with them. My mother taught us to cook with them. So there's the basic ingredient. Whew, my eyes are burning out. Just give this a little toss around. Give the garlic, and just going to let these sit now until our broth is delicious. And then, whew, my eyes are burning out, guys. Whew. Yeah, they're really burning. Makes your sinuses run. Alright, I always add lots of carrots. I'm going to absorb some of that water. Lots and lots of carrots to my soup. Ooh. Here, let me just take a minute's break. Have a drink of coffee. See, fresh coffee. Ooh. Those are some strong onions. Ooh. See? A normal cook would pause the video and go wipe their eyes. Because I can guarantee you they'll be crying too. So I just line these up and I cut these into just, you know, bite-sized pieces. So that when you take a spoon of your soup, you can swallow the whole carrot. If you don't like it, swallow it whole, or you can chew it. I chew them because I love carrots. And so does Jeff. And so does my family. Like, my kids love carrots. My son loves vegetables. He just hates them cooked. Because he's just not a big fan of cooked vegetables. He never was. But he will eat my soup. He loves it. So I'm just making small pieces. So I'm going to chop all these carrots and come back and I'll show you one more ingredient that I like to add, but you don't have to, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got all my carrots cut up, the celery, the onions, the garlic, the parsley. Now, this is stuff I can get from my bulk store. And I always buy this stuff. This is a vegetable soup. They're all freeze-dried vegetables. There's carrots, peppers, onions. I'm not sure what the yellow things are. Miku's flying around the house. Anyway, they could be peas, leeks, it looks like, green onions or whatever. But anyway, I always take a handful of this and I just sprinkle it on top of my vegetables, and that's about all I'm going to use in that. And that's going to add an additional amount of wonderful flavor. So we'll just leave this sit, and when this cooks in the soup, this all comes back to life. So this is really good stuff. And now I'm just going to leave all of this stuff sit here for now until my soup or my meat's ready, and then I'll come back. But as I promised, I'm going to show you how I clean my wooden cutting board. So let me get my stuff and I'll be right back. Okay, so this method is really good if you use your cutting board and you see black filling in on all your knife lines where you've cut on it. I do not cut meat on my cutting board. Never have on a wooden one. I always use my plastic ones, which are right below me in a cupboard, and they're right there handy for me to use. But I will cook cooked meat on here, but never raw meat on my wooden cutting board. But first off, you want to start off with some lemon juice. Just pour lemon juice in these cracks here. Okay, like that. And then you just want to smooth it all around and make sure it gets into all of the cracks. And I do this like every couple of weeks. I will clean my cutting board, especially if I use something that may stain it. I don't like that. So to this, you want to take some really not fine ground salt, but I can't even turn this because it's wet. Let me dry it. There we go. And just put some salt on it. And I could see over here I didn't get any lemon juice. So I want to get it wherever I have cracks. Okay. And then you want to pour salt like crazy on it. I'm just using sea salt. Okay. There we go. Then you want to take some baking soda, just regular Arm & Hammer baking soda, and you're going to see it fizz up, and that's going to help clean any kind of germs or yuck that is in those little crevices from your knife. Okay? And now I'm just going to let this sit on my cutting board for about 10 or 15 minutes and just let it soak and absorb and get all the black thing, the black dirt that's between all of your knife cracks. And I'm telling you, this is the best way to clean your cutting board. And if you feel like you need more baking soda, go ahead and put it on. I'm just going to rub a lot of this in. Try to get it as clean as I can. And I'm just going to let this sit now, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like once we wipe it all off. And I'm just going to use a dishcloth and run it under hot water and wipe it dry. And that's it, and I'll be right back. So, look at my nice clean cutting board. This is one good way of keeping your cutting board. Even though mine's really old, I've had this for about 4 years. It's even got a split in it. I don't wash my cutting board in the dishwasher or soak it in the sink because it swells the wood, especially these pieces here that are joined. It ruins my cutting board. So I just wanted to show you how to clean that without destroying your cutting board. So I'll be back to finish off. The soup is still, look at the soup. The meat is still cooking very well. Look at that broth. It just looks so enriched. And the reason I strain it is because I don't like all that blood that goes into the broth. I want it to be crystal clear yellow broth. So we shall return. Okay guys, I'm back. I have let my chicken literally cook for maybe 2.5 hours. So that's really not that bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this burner off for now, because I'm going to show you. Look at how delicious that looks. So I am just going to remove these chicken breasts, and I'm just going to let them rest on this plate until they're cooled enough that I can chop up the meat and remove the skin and the bones off of it. So that's what they look like. Pretty bland looking. Now, what I have here is cheesecloth. and a strainer, and I am using a mesh strainer and a big measuring cup. This cheesecloth is unbelievable. Now this is rewashable. This is awesome stuff. This is what they use to make butter with, and I'll show you it. It's a little more expensive than your regular normal cheesecloth, but it's called Olicity cheesecloth, and it's grade 90, 5 yards, and I forget, it's very fine mesh, lint free, 44 by 36 weave, washable and reusable. So that is why I love this cheesecloth. What I'll do is I will strain my soup, and I'll just rinse this quickly in the sink, and then I'll throw it into the wash. So what you want to do is take your broth with all that delicious flavor in it, and you want to strain it in cheesecloth. So you get a nice, delicious, clear broth. And you know, a lot of people make soup broth in advance. And I know my camera just kind of mucked up here because of the steam. Let me just move this away a bit so we get rid of the steam. There we go. Alright, so as you can see, I strained off all of those, and my thing here is completely clear, free of any of the blood. I'm just going to give that a little squeeze. I think I'll use my little tongs here to press out any more juice. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm just going to put this over here for now. So you can see how clear, crystal clear, my nice yellow color. There's nothing floating in it. That's what bothers me the most. Now, because I used the skin on the chicken, it leaves the oil residue. You can see the oil deposits. Let me come up closer so you can see those are oil. Take a piece of paper towel, because I like my soup to be as fat free as can be, and just run it across the top and let the paper towel absorb all that grease. And I can see it's greasy. Not a big fan of grease, and I try to keep all my stuff grease free. If I can, I will. I'll try to get the majority of it off. And there we go. That looks pretty darn good. Now, to my big pot, and I'm using a big pot. Let me just back out. Whoops, back out, back out. I'm going to pour my chicken broth in here very carefully without burning myself. You can see how rich and clear that broth looks. Now, I do have a mess here, and it's going to be on the bottom of my pot now, so let me just grab some paper towel, because I don't want this going on my burner with anything wet on it. I'm using the rock. These are the rock pans. We can't use Teflon in the house because they're absolutely toxic for birds, and I can't use the Teflon. So, to your soup, you're going to add all your veggies very carefully without getting burnt. Okay. Now, that's not enough broth. I like to take low sodium chicken broth and add some to my chicken soup, because we like this. And Jeff will eat like 2 full bowls of it, 2 big bowls of it. And you just want to add some low sodium, fat-free chicken broth to your pot. And I'm using 2, and I like to shake these up Now this pot is extremely full, but some of that will boil away. So what you're going to do now is simmer this with a lid. Bring it to a boil first without the lid. Don't put the lid on just yet. You put the lid on to simmer it. You let this cook for about 4 hours. Okay? So I'm going to just transfer this to a hot element right here. And we're going to prepare our chicken. And I'm going to just leave the spoon over there. Definitely take the skin off. You don't want this in your soup. And you will see the bones should just fall right off of your chicken breast really nicely like that, like super easy. And then you just want to pick off whatever blood's in this, because I can't stand this black stuff, which means it's blood that came from the chicken. And there's another piece of bone. That's why I like to cut my pieces up really small. Okay, so that is absolutely no waste. That's just the rib and I don't want it. And it separates right nicely off of your chicken breast. If you use dark meat, the dark meat will release a lot more fat than a chicken breast. This is very lean meat. And it's actually, ouch, better for you. So I want to make sure I get all these bones. I know there's a bone there. And I could feel a bone here. And I'm just going to scoop off, ooh, that's a little hot. Scoop off some of this black stuff because I don't want it in my soup. Okay. Ooh, that's really hot. Oh, that looks good. Alright, we're just going to toss this out. I don't use this anymore, so put that over there with the garbage. Ready to go into recycle. And then we'll get our knife. And then we're just going to cut this chicken into small pieces, cubes or whatever, however you can get it chopped. And you're going to throw this, I like to chop it small. So there's chicken in every bite, pretty much, in your soup. And then I like to check to make sure I have all the bones released from the chicken. Okay? And then you're going to do that with all your chicken pieces. And because it's just me and Jeff, well, I mean my tenant will have some. Normally, if my kids were all at home, I would have to make a huge soup pot full. Because my kids loved my chicken soup. So I'm just going to cut these into small pieces because they are kind of big chunks. And that's a lot of chicken from 2 pieces. I would say that's a lot of chicken breast. Very good. Now, let me turn my camera over to the stove so you can see it. And there is the soup. And we're going to just add, whoops, we're going to add our chicken to this very carefully. Alright. And then we'll just give this a nice little stir. You could see this looks absolutely divine and it smells really good. Now, I'm going to salt this a little bit, but I am going to be careful because I did use a salt cube, not a salt cube, a soup cube. And soup cubes tend to be very salty, but I got the low sodium one, so I'm safe. And now, another thing you want to keep in mind, that's as much salt as I intend on putting in there. Keep in mind, if your soup tastes watery and you added water to it, you can always add another cube to it, okay, and melt down the cube. This is the trick here, lots of black pepper. It just makes the soup. Kid you not. Now, what you want to do is just bring this to a boil. Okay, and before sticking a lid on this, let it come to a nice hard boil, and then you're going to turn it down and let it simmer for about till supper time now. And it is 11:30 here. So this will simmer till like 5 o'clock. It's not going to hurt anything. That's why you keep a lid on it. It will reduce a little bit, you know, not a lot with the lid being on it. But just keep giving it a nice little stir. And let this all come. Now you can taste this if you want, because the chicken is literally cooked. But I've made this so many times, I don't need to taste it. I know how it's going to taste. I already know it's going to be so delicious. And you can see all those pieces. With every bite, you're going to get chicken. You're going to get a little bit of everything. So I'm going to allow this to come to a boil, and I will show you in a minute when I come back how I simmer it. Let it simmer. Because I'm using a rock pan, I cannot cook anything on high heat with this rock. So I've got it turned down to medium high, and I'm going to wait till it comes to a boil. It's going to take a little longer than I anticipate, but I just have to. That's just the way it is. I cannot use Teflon pans in this house with the bird. So, and these pans here, if you look them up, the rock, my daughter bought me this set for Christmas. I was so pumped when she bought me this, because they are very expensive pots, but they're much healthier than Teflon. They don't have any chemical that can harm you. They're actually environmentally safe. Teflon is not. So anyway, bring this to a boil. Mine's going to take a lot longer, so I'm just going to rest it with the lid on it, and it's going to help it to boil. That's all I'm going to do. And then I'll come in here after and turn it down, and I'll show you what the soup looks like when it is actually simmering, okay? What it should look like, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So you can see my soup is at a simmer, and you're just going to leave your lid on this, and you're going to let this simmer. You don't even have to stir this. You can just walk away from it now and leave it for the rest of the day. Everything is in here until you cook your tortellini, and I'm cooking 3 cheese tortellini tonight for this, and we just love it in this soup. So you can see I've got it turned down between minimum and 2. So I just want it to have a very soft simmer like this. And it will simmer even more once the lid is on it. It'll simmer quite a bit more. So like it'll rumble more. And if it rumbles too much for you, turn it down between minimum and 2. You don't want to turn it right off. You want to have some kind of bubbling going. That way you know it's simmering. So I'm going to come back later on when this is all done, and I'm going to cook the noodles, and I'm going to show you what a lovely bowl of chicken tortellini soup, homemade, is going to look like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. So I'll be back. Not right back. I'll see you later on this evening at supper time. Back. Hello again. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Sorry, almost 2:30. And I just want to show you what it looks like after it's been cooking for 11:30, 3 hours. Ta-da! It's still slow boil, and I have lost hardly anything as to evaporation. You can see it's hardly even evaporated, but look at all, and I tasted it. Oh my God. To die for. I have to put a towel on here because this metal handle gets so flippin' hot, you cannot touch this with your bare hands. Stupid way they made these pot lids. Really stupid. But they're made to go in the oven, so I guess if you have a metal pot lid like that, you can put these Dutch ovens in the oven. Anyway, wanted to show you that, and that's 3 hours of cooking, and you can see everything is all infused. Oh, it's so good, guys. I can't even wait for supper. All right, see you in a bit. Bye. I got the pasta cooking. It is now 4:48 and the soup is done. Back up a bit. Whew, fogged up. Ooh, this looks delicious. A whole lot of deliciousness coming right up. So I just wanted to show you, look at the soup, what it looks like. Looks delicious. We're just going to set that off to the side. I have made a mess with my stove because Jeff let these boil over. So I'll be back when I'm ready to serve. Alright, so this is how I like to serve my soup. So these are the 3 cheese tortellinis. I'm just going to put a few noodles in the bottom there, and then I'm going to grab a scoop of this delicious broth. Look at this. This looks amazing. Oh my word, Becky. Some broth. Let's give this a little stir. And look at how amazing this chicken soup looks. Come up. Can't get any better than that. So, bon appetit, people! Homemade chicken soup that's been cooking since 11:30 this morning. All the flavors have totally infused in this broth. So, and you can see the broth is fat-free and crystal clear with just veggies in it. All those little veggies have swelled up, come to life. Just looks really good. So anyway, I really and truly hope you guys give this soup a try. It's really good and you're really going to enjoy it. And I want to thank you for joining me on another Cook With Me. Ruby. Bye everyone. Enjoy. Bon appetit. Bye.